freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is a very special episode because the United States Ryder Cup team is set. We will discuss the rights, the wrongs, the snubs, and everything in between. Joining me to break it all down, Patrick McDonald is here. Patrick, good day to you.
Good day. The fall is typically a very divisive time in this country. You think elections, college football, and I think after today, we can all move forward together as a unit and put our best foot forward.
What office are you running for?
Any that will have me.
Yeah, nice. Well done. Greg DuCharme.
Sure. True politician right there.
Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
Hello, boys. The day that we've been waiting for, the day we've been talking about for 2, maybe 3 years, the day that it comes up seemingly every single Sunday, every Sunday edition of the First Cut Podcast. This comes up, and it's finally here, finally real, and we get to talk about it.
Kyle Porter is here. KP, the United States Ryder Cup team today went from 6 to 12. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, bring me your. I want to hear the JT hate. I want the JT tears. I want it all. Drop it in the comments. It's I can't wait to talk about it. It's going to be awesome.
All right. So this morning, it is Tuesday. This morning, Captain Zach Johnson announced and confirmed his captain's picks that were a little bit leaked recently. And then I think we knew as of Monday night what these picks were going to be, but they are now officially in. So joining the automatic qualifiers, the guys that earned their spots, which were Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Xander Schauffele, Zach Johnson added 6 more names. Those names: Sam Burns, Rickie Fowler, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka, Collin Morikawa, Justin Thomas. Those will be the 12 that embark to Rome to try to win the Ryder Cup on European soil for the first time in 30 years. Patrick, we'll start with you. We'll go through each one of these guys, but your initial reactions to the squad that will be donning the red, white, and blue.
It was an A+ from Zach Johnson. I think this is the team you have to take to try to break that 30-year spell. It may not be the most talented players, but I think it is the best team. And for all those people out there on TV, on big radio, the corrupt golf media saying it's a boys' trip, they're the same people for the last 30 years who have been harping that this U.S. team needs to have that rah-rah European spirit. You know, they're playing for one another. And now that it's come, people are critical of it. So pick a side, pick a lane.
I cede all of my time to Patrick. Patrick, just keep going.
And so for Zach Johnson, I think he did what he had to do. I understand there are some people potentially in the comments, potentially some rumblings who may not agree with maybe those last 2 picks, but I think he hit it out of the park today and did what he needed to do for this U.S. team to be successful.
Kyle, would you say that this is on brand or off brand for a United States captain to assemble a team like this?
Off.
You do. This is
yes.
So this can both be boys club, boys trip, and off brand.
It can both. I don't think it's. Listen, like you want to be Europe. This is what Europe does, right? Go back to 2008. You know how many top 10s Ian Poulter had leading into the 2008 Ryder Cup? One top 10 in 2008. You know what he did at that Ryder Cup? He went 4-1-0 because now Europe got smoked, so it didn't matter. But this is what Europe does, honestly. And people get so riled up about it because it's JT and he's friends with Spieth. And like, did you hear Zach Johnson talk about Lucas Glover? I don't know their relationships. It seems like Zach Johnson is closer as a friend to Lucas Glover than to Justin Thomas. I don't know that. I'm just going off of like sort of what ZJ was saying and sort of conjecture there. But I'm with Patrick. Like, I think I think the status quo of taking the 12th guy, the 13th guy, that just going down the list is so tired and it's what the U.S. has been doing. The U.S. has been acting like they are Alabama, coincidentally, and they can just roll a bunch of talent out there and win this event. And guess what? This is not stroke play at the Wyndham. It's the Ryder. It's barely the same sport. And I think that what they did today, it looks bad. I concede that it doesn't look great because it's JT. But I think what they did is actually took a lot of chutzpah from Zach Johnson to go out and pick somebody that is like people are still arguing like logically over, well, I mean, Luke Glover's been a lot better player than JT. Yeah, no crap. Like, nobody's arguing that JT's been good. That's the whole point. Like, he is not on the team because he's been good. He's on the team because he's the team captain. And that's what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. And I think it took a lot of gumption to go for ZJ to do that. And he went out and did it. And I think it's going to pay off.
Greg, those were a couple of rave reviews from our other podcast mates here. Where do you fall on the spectrum of how you feel about these picks?
Well, a little more European. You might say one particular European nation, Switzerland. I'm a little more down the middle on this one.
Nice.
Couple reasons. One, I think you got every pick right, with the exception of possibly JT. I would not have put JT on the team. Now, I think the best play that he made was it seemed like Cam Young was slated on this team. You know, there's been a lot of conversation. I've heard a lot of people say, well, you could have picked this team in January. Or, what's the difference? What's the point of extending the captain selections? And I think if that were the case, Cam Young would have been on the team. And Sam Burns probably would have been off to maybe a question mark. Maybe if he started in April, Sam Burns probably would have been off. And I think putting Sam Burns on instead of Cam Young was a very good call. Now, when it comes to Justin Thomas, it's extremely risky. I saw your tweet, Kyle, about how a good pick is not dictated by the outcome, and I think that is true. But there's a lot of pressure on a pick when it's a bad pick, and this is a very risky pick to make. But it taught me something today that I probably should have known a long time ago, and that is not everybody starts this Ryder Cup point cycle at 0. And there are certain players like Jordan Spieth, like Justin Thomas, that every captain wants to have on their team. And because they want to have them on their team, the question is, who's going to knock them off the mountain and demand a spot? And this is what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. There was an opportunity for a Keegan Bradley, for a Lucas Glover, who gave himself an opportunity by playing so well, for a Tony Finau. These guys had an opportunity to demand a spot on this team, and they clearly didn't do enough. So, there's one way to look at it is who did get picked and what did they do to get on the team. But I think what Captain Zach Johnson was really looking at is, well, who was on my initial wish list and what was done to move them off of it. And I don't think we had enough to get JT off of this team, not based on his play, but based on the play of the others.
I agree with that. I agree that someone could have taken this spot from Justin Thomas, whether that be Denny McCarthy, Lucas Glover, Keegan Bradley, Tony Finau, a lot of those guys coming down the stretch. I think they could have taken it. Patrick, I want to throw this to you. I want to take something Kyle said and propose it to you. So Kyle, I believe, said something to the effect of, it took a lot of chutzpah for Zach Johnson to select Justin Thomas. I would argue it takes very little chutzpah, very little courage, very little to select a guy who is going to be on his whatever number of international team, a guy that's had great success, a guy that's been your stalwart. I think it would take more chutzpah to leave him at home.
You're both right, in my opinion, right? I mean, Zach Johnson's captaincy will come down to one name, and it's Justin Thomas. If he goes 3-0-0 and they win the Cup, it's obviously a great success. But if he goes 0-2-1, doesn't look great, he sits him a couple times, the internet's going to be running wild with, oh my goodness, Lucas Glover's hitting that approach to 5 feet, and Justin Thomas just hit it into a pond 300 yards away in like Lake Como or something. And so I think you're both right, where it's easy for him to look at this situation and be like, okay, I could leave him at home, bring someone with a higher floor like a Keegan Bradley, or I could take JT, who has a much higher ceiling. And I think that's the way you kind of have to look at the Ryder Cup, is you're getting the ceiling out of this guy. So you're both right. But I mean, his captaincy is going to come down to Justin Thomas and if he can deliver.
Let's dive into it. Show the profile, Josh. Justin Thomas, 30 years old, 26th in the world ranking. This will be his third Ryder Cup appearance. He is 6-2-1 in previous Ryder Cups. That's 2-2 in foursomes, 2-0-1 in fourball, and 2-0 in singles. Obviously, failing to qualify for the FedEx Cup playoffs puts a target on Justin Thomas. He was certainly, I don't know if he was the last man in. I will probably never know that, but I think the way that it was argued and discussed over the last couple of weeks, this was the X Factor selection.
I don't know who's supposed to respond to this, but I'm jumping in. I thought it was actually interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but during the Zoom, the ill-conceived Zoom call today, that spawned 1,000 memes, that they let JT go last, right? Like they gave him sort of the final word. Like they went to him last. I actually don't think he was the last guy on the team. I think Sam Burns probably was.
Yeah, it was probably alphabetical, right?
Yeah, it was alphabetical.
Well, no, I just mean like in terms of right. So they went through the Zoom call, I think alphabetically, but
did they?
I think
yes.
so. Burns to
Okay.
Thomas.
Well, then I'm an idiot.
No, but I think you're right, KP. I also think that Justin Thomas was always on this team.
Yeah, and
From a selection.
again, like I don't know. He's not like, if I have one more person send me something about Lucas Glover being on the team over Justin Thomas, then you also better be prepared to defend Russell Henley over Jordan Spieth.
Okay.
Or Keegan Bradley over Rickie Fowler, right? If we're just going strictly off of data golf, which I love, or off of Rick Run Good, then this is not the team. But it's not only Justin Thomas. It's other guys as well. And so I wrote about this today for CBSSports.com, and I've said it 100 times. Like, and we talked about it on Sunday night. Who's like, the US is going to be down by 3 at some point, and it's going to look like it's inevitable that Europe is winning. Who like wants the ball? Who wants to take on Rahm first out on Sunday? Who wants Rory first out on Sunday? I think that's JT's role. And whether like the US just doesn't have that guy. And I think it's so important, almost especially in Europe. I think if this event was in the US, maybe argue against JT a little bit. Like, I think you could take a Keegan or a Russell Henley in the US and everything would be kind of fine. I think the fact that the event is in Europe actually matters here. And I think JT just plays such a specific role, and I know it fires people up. I mean, this has been the most polarizing thing, other than maybe the PIF stuff, all year. And it's he's only going to play in like 2-3 matches.
I actually think that we were kind of diving into this a little bit, Greg, before we went hot. So I agree that it's not as easy to compare Justin Thomas to Keegan Bradley, for example, or Justin Thomas to Lucas Glover or whatever. But Tony Finau needed a better PR team leading into this, right? I mean, they were only a handful of spots off each other in the Ryder Cup points. Tony Finau had a significantly better year. Tony Finau has good Ryder Cup history. Tony Finau, I think, is actually a better argument if you're going to take a guy who's established. I know their demeanors are a little bit different, but both very likable. I actually think that might be a conversation that should be happening that's not happening.
It's not happening. And again, in large part, this has to do with what Tony Finau did with his golf clubs. Again, I think this is a really big sticking point for me today. Not everybody starts at zero. So Tony Finau is a part of the team. You'd like them in 2018. You'd like him to be a part of the team. But the question is there a spot for him? And for Justin Thomas, there is a spot. He's got a parking spot with his name on it because he's the captain of this team. And there's a difference between being a really solid role player and being the captain of the team. And it was clear with Zach Johnson's comments today that Justin Thomas is the captain and the leader of this team. And the other thing too that I would add to that is this is it's a very risky pick for Zach Johnson. It's an opportunity for Justin Thomas to, create his lead in future Ryder Cups and cement it even more, regardless of his play. I mean, he can basically make his name permanent on the Ryder Cup team until he decides not to play anymore. If he goes out and has a phenomenal week, because he all of a sudden turns into an Ian Poulter,
right? Where
he's been a great player and he's qualified for all the Ryder Cup teams he's played for, and he has been a big contributor and a big rah-rah guy. I'm not sure about his ping pong skills, but I'm sure they're pretty good. If he goes out in poor form and performs very well in the Ryder Cup, then he becomes a Ryder Cup legend, like an Ian Poulter, where the Ryder Cup brings out the best in his game. And it's hard to tell that right now because he's only played in 2 Ryder Cups. I know he's played in 3 President's Cups as well, but in all of those events, he's come in as one of the best players and he's played well there. It's not surprising. Where, Ian Poulter has been a captain's pick on 5 of the 7 Ryder Cup teams he's been a part of. And he steps up in the moment and he outperforms his normal. And this is the first time, in my opinion, Justin Thomas has an opportunity to do that. And I think it would put him, a great performance puts him in a separate class. A poor performance, it looks really bad on Zach Johnson.
Okay, Kyle.
Real quick, there's a quote that that's a great point, Greg, by the way. But there's a quote from Luke Deep Fried Egg tweeted this. If you're not following Deep Fried Egg, you should be. But there's a quote from Luke Donald from 2018 in Paris. He said, "The Americans were amazingly strong on paper, but Ryder Cups are just different than individual championships. They're about team chemistry, team bonding, finding the right partnerships. And we obviously had a lot of help being at home on a course that we're familiar with." And I think that's a little bit. There you go. Wow, Josh, elite. It's a little bit being over. It's a little bit like the comp that I was thinking about is if you've got Draymond Green, like, would you trade him for, I won't get the right person that I'm looking for here, but would you trade him for Anthony Davis? In a vacuum, obviously Anthony Davis is better than Draymond Green, right? But there's something that Draymond Green does to your team that is Anthony Davis can't do. And I get that we're talking about very, very, very different sports, but the Ryder Cup is a very, very, very different thing than anything else that happens in golf. And I feel like people are just ignoring that. Like nobody is arguing that JT is playing good golf. Like I feel like people are coming at me like, prove that he's playing good golf. And it's like, I'm not trying to. Like I'm not even like attempting to do that. I'm just telling you like what he brings to the table is something that the US, as we talked about on Sunday night, Rick, as constructed, does not have, but actually needs when they're going to Europe to try to end this drought.
One thing on that, he brings it if he's performing well. It's really hard to bring the rah-rah when you're getting beat. You're getting beat badly. So the performance is linked to the, you're not going to be shushing the crowd when you miss a 5-foot putt, right? That doesn't happen. There's no celebrations. The energy is sucked out of everybody. So the performance is a really important aspect to bring that out. If you think Twitter is spicy now, imagine if Justin Thomas misses the cut at the Fortinet in 2 weeks.
Imagine if he gets beat in the first match, like 7-6.
To be fair, you know who also missed the cut at the Fortinet Championship?
Who's that?
John Rahm.
John Rahm. I've heard of him.
Straits. Yep.
Let me tee you up on likely Justin Thomas's partner here, Patrick. That's Jordan Spieth. He'll be making his 5th Ryder Cup appearance. 8-7-3 is the record. That brought down by his 0 wins in Sunday singles, 0-3-1 there. And for a lot of the year, or at least maybe half the year, maybe a little bit more than that, he was pretty much an auto qualifier, but kind of limps to the finish line of the season. Brian Harman jumps up. Wyndham Clark jumps up, and now Jordan Spieth requires a captain selection.
I think how Zach Johnson and the rest of the vice captains utilize this duo is very intriguing, because they have been a pair to play foursomes, alternate shot together. And that scares the absolute hell out of me personally, putting both of these guys around a tight, hilly golf course in alternate shot. And we saw even last year, I believe JT played with Cantlay in 4-ball once, or at Whistling Straits. He veered off from Spieth one of the sessions. And so I think, yeah, Spieth was always going to be on this team. I think you got to lean into them, into the 4-ball more, and sit them alternate shot, because given their form, I know it's still a month away, but they aren't the alphas really, right? You got the team of Xander and Cantlay, you got Scheffler and Burns was great at President's Cup despite his record. And so to me, I think what you can squeeze out of these two, I think you put them out first in the morning or first whenever. And if they get hot, you just let them run rampant like chickens with their heads cut off. And if not, you might have to reel them back in and, sit them a session or two.
Chickens with their head cut off. That is the book title of Jordan Spieth's biography, I believe. KP, this is, listen, we don't have to spend much time on Jordan Spieth. No surprise, he's going to be on the team. He warranted a captain's pick. He's going to run out there with Justin Thomas as often as possible. And a lot of the points and a lot of the not even the rah-rah, like the on-course momentum, and it's gonna run through this squad.
Well, and the I think Greg's point is very good, that the rallying the troops doesn't work if you're shooting 85, right? And the floor and the ceiling on this duo is terrifying.
The ceiling is in the roof.
They could shoot 64, they could shoot 88. I don't know. And so in that sense, going back to what Patrick said, it is there's some risk involved, but I've watched the last 30 years in Europe. Like you have to take those risks and hope they pay off. And I think somebody made this point, I can't remember who, like the comfort level. Brooks Koepka talked about this at Whistling Straits, right? Like he needed his naps, he needed his gym, he needed like all the stuff.
Don't we all? Sure.
I wish. I think the comfort level of like Spieth and JT together, like I think that's it's not nothing. Like that's a meaningful aspect. I think again, like sometimes we treat these guys like they're robots. We treat Spieth like, oh, well, you could just play with Bryson, right? Or you could just play with whoever and things are going to be fine. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how many Ryder Cups we have to watch in Europe of the Europeans putting guys that, want to be together, making them comfortable and them rolling the US. So to me, that counts for something here, but I don't know. It remains to be seen. It could go badly for sure.
Greg, we'll get you a quick word here on Jordan Spieth, but real quick, Jordan Spieth in his Ryder Cup career has only played with 3 different partners in 4, 8, 11, in 14 matches, 3 different partners. Can we name them?
Obviously Reed and JT.
There you go.
And I believe you played with Dustin Johnson.
Okay. Is that your final answer?
Brooks.
Yes.
Kyle, is that your final answer?
Jordan Spieth played with Brooks in 2021.
You're removing the drama from my big reveal here.
No drama. Brooks,
yes.
It is.
Yes,
I think it was Brooks. Yeah.
Jordan Spieth. Good job, Patrick. Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka lost 2-1 to the Spanish Armada, Sergio and John Rahm. Greg, this is Yeah. You have anything else to add on Jordan Spieth? No surprise here.
Very curious to see what they do, because this is such a risky team. Do you put him out in the first session, or do you save him for the second session? Because you have so much depth, you don't have to play them. And if you go and put your Burns and Scheffler, your Schauffele, Cantlay, maybe it's a Koepka and Morikawa, or Harman and Morikawa. Talk about an accurate team. Whatever you feel like your safest teams are, which I feel like there are at least 4 that don't include Spieth and Thomas. Do you put them out first and get your feet settled, and then you throw out JT and Spieth? Because I feel like they're just so polarizing that it's a huge momentum swing one way or the other. So do you try to take advantage of that and hope for the best, or do you save that, try to reduce the swing in fear that it doesn't go very well? I'm very curious to see how that plays out.
Were you going to say something, Patrick?
I thought Rick was shaking me off.
I was messing with you.
I found out today that it's going to be foursomes in the morning session, which is typically not the case in Europe. So I feel like that could throw a little wrinkle in the plan also, because I loved Spieth and JT just leading off 4-ball, let them hit it anywhere they want, make birdies from anywhere, and ride the hot hand into foursomes if you can. But I don't know if they'll have that luxury given its alternate shot first.
The U.S. got swept in foursomes on Friday in Paris because it was in the afternoon.
It was
and they were up 3-1.
Yeah, and then they got
down
just
4-3.
Torched.
I think you have to run them out first, because you might get 4 or 5 points from them, right? They're that. I need to know if I'm getting the upside or if I'm not.
And if you're getting the upside, you want 5. You want 5 matches.
Yeah.
Or at least the first 3.
But I don't know if you can play them, and I don't know if they're playable in foursomes.
Guess we're gonna find
I think they probably. The one thing they have in foursomes to their advantage is both of them right now have nasty short games.
Yeah,
and they could be so annoying to play against. I don't know what the penalty area situation is in at Marco Simone. I don't know what that looks like. If it's thick rough, they play out of thick rough in every major, right? They've dealt with all kinds of trouble spots. So I don't necessarily mind it. I got to learn a little more about the golf course, though.
There's an abandoned farmhouse behind one of the holes that Spieth is for sure going to be playing out of at some point.
That is it.
It's like when he found the porta potty at Oak Hill. Okay, we will continue this conversation. 4 more captains' picks to go, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
It's time. The best Transformers yet. There you go. Is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
This is gonna be fun, man. Now let's talk to your manifestation.
Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Rated PG-13. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And we're back. I think we can be pretty quick here for the next couple. Patrick, Collin Morikawa will make his second Ryder Cup appearance, 3-0-1 in 2021. It has been 2 years since he has won on the PGA Tour, but the form has not necessarily left him. Still some pretty good numbers, and was a mortal lock to make this team.
Yeah. All around, I think a great year despite not winning. Best in terms of approach around the green of his career, and was a weapon with DJ. The main question is who's going to replace DJ with Collin Morikawa in foursomes, and I think you have a couple really good candidates to do that. And with his accuracy off the tee and the iron play, he could be one of the better, if not the best players on the U.S. side.
Most likely partner, KP? Who do we think it is? I've got someone in mind.
Who do you have in mind?
Max Homa.
Yeah. What? Just why?
I think that
we're just doing colleges together. Wyndham Clark and Rickie, and
dude. Yes, honestly, yeah. I think that if we're at this point where it's Sam Burns, Justin Thomas, Rick. It's this team. We might as well just go with who we're comfortable with. And Morikawa and Homa had the obviously they played together at the Zurich. They didn't play well. They played together at the Zurich. Obviously a lot of comfortability there. I don't think it is stat based. I think that ZJ will let the buddies run out there together.
You don't think they'll go stat based?
No.
He was pretty he was out over his skis talking about stats today. I think at one point he said technology and whatnot. Did you see that?
Things of that nature.
I just got a little bit concerned when he couldn't remember either one of two questions that were asked to him 20 seconds prior. And I just got a little bit worried about that.
He gets himself kind of worked up in those situations, and it doesn't always look great. I don't know. I think Homa Morikawa is just like an easy place to run to because they played together. Morikawa needs kind of a new partner. Who did Homa and Finau played together at the President's Cup. They were awesome. Morikawa was on that team. Who did he play with last year at the President's Cup?
I think it was
DJ
Cam Young. They try to replace him with.
Yeah.
They try to slide Cam Young into the DJ spot for him.
What about Collin and Wyndham?
I like that too.
Yeah.
Is there a bad one? I mean, he
Brian Harman. Brian Harman, I think would be.
You don't like Brian Harman?
No, I think they're a little too similar. I mean, Harman can obviously roll the rock, but like, there's not. I don't think that there's enough complementary there.
Yeah, I think it'll be Homa just because Homa putted the crap out of the golf ball this year, and off the tee is great, which is the same for Wyndham. But we saw Wyndham with some comfort level with another Oklahoma State Cowboy. And like you said, Rick, the U.S. teams like Ty Pennington, Extreme Home Makeover. Once they get one thing, they make your whole bedroom it, and we're on to the next group.
Yeah, they'll be fine. I think you compare Greg. I think the real answer is there's like 9 guys that can play the Collin Morikawa.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like, who would have seen? We're sitting here 2 years ago. Who would have seen Morikawa and DJ coming?
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden they go 4-0. So I think more from what I've read, heard, seen, whatever, it seems like Morikawa's skill set, which is like very straight driver, will be pretty valuable. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Morikawa played all 5 matches.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily true of JT or Spieth. So yeah, what about Morikawa and Brooks?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to Brooks, Greg. So Brooks Koepka will make his 4th career Ryder Cup appearance, 6-5-1 in Ryder Cups. He was the lone live golfer to make his way onto this team, which is something that Zach Johnson was asked about quite a bit. I don't mind the Brooks Collin pairing either. I think that's pretty good.
No, I think so too. But if you go down the comfort path, I mean, is Brooks and Rickie is that the duo? Another South Florida kind of duo.
You think they hang out on weekends?
I would.
You think they frequent the same places?
Yeah,
doesn't do a ton for me.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Really?
So that's kind of my prediction. Yeah, I think they probably play some golf together.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Brooksy again. I mean, outside of the Justin Thomas thing, Brooks is like the real X factor here, right? There's a chance, Greg, he just takes over and asserts himself on this Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody would play with Brooks. He has shown that he can step up and play in the biggest moments, which is why he's on this team, because you don't really know what his recent form is like. Right? You're not really selecting on that. And if you were, then you'd have some real questions with him. So this comes from what he does in majors, what he's done in big events, and having some experience. So it obviously makes a ton of sense that the 7th guy would be on the Ryder Cup team. I think he's pairable with a lot of guys. I think even Scotty Scheffler is an option. I don't think Scotty's necessarily taken by Sam Burns for every match. I could see Brooks playing with Scotty too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The questions were fairly extensive towards Zach Johnson here, Patrick, about the selection process and how he landed on Brooks Koepka versus Dustin Johnson versus Bryson DeChambeau. And one of the things that Greg mentioned is actually what Zach Johnson kind of alluded to. He said, it's difficult to find the how good their form is when they're not playing against everybody else every single week, and basically boiled it down to the major championship performances that Brooks Koepka was able to put forth.
Yeah, there's been a lot of earning your spot on this team conversation, and even though he wasn't top 6, he earned his spot with the starts he was given. Unlike DJ, Bryson, I thought put together a decent campaign and effort, and obviously didn't get picked. But you go back to the Keegan Bradleys and Tony Finau's, they didn't earn it. Brooks had 4 starts this year to earn his spot on the team. He finished runner-up at the Masters, and he won the freaking PGA Championship and top 20 at the US Open. He went out and he earned this spot. He earned the right to get a captain's pick. And so we know he can just pop out of thin air and get form out of nowhere. I think an alpha like Brooks Koepka, you stick him with another alpha like Brian Harman, and they just go around and watch these Italian fans just cry and go, scusi, pardon me, here's a birdie. And I think that's a team where, Harman won't be, any intimidated at all. He kind of reminds me of a Daniel Berger almost, really straight, great with wedges, can make a lot of putts. They were great together in Wisconsin too. And that's a team I would love to see, because I think Brian Harman's going to thrive, and doing that next to Brooks Koepka would be awesome to watch.
I love that. I think they're two guys who are just like, yeah, I'm just kind of here to do my job. We don't need to chat. We don't need to yuck it up. Like, let's just go win 4 and 3 and move on.
You think they talk about Aaron Hills?
Yeah, maybe so. You brought up the Bryson thing. You could have taught me into Bryson being on this team. I mean, he's clearly been one of the 10, not even 10, probably 5 best guys over the last 4 or 5 months. Was good in the majors. He was awesome at Whistling Straits, like really good, like just a complete maniacal showman the entire time, which is like perfect for this event. I think him having sued everybody on the team probably doesn't help. I think back to 2014 when Phil Mickelson was talking about Rory and Graham McDowell, and he said, at least we don't litigate against each other, which now we do. So that's problematic, but you could have maybe in the burn spot, you could have thrown Bryson in there, and I would be fine with it.
All right. Well, we've got 2 more golfers to cover, and then we'll talk about the guys who will be on the outside looking in. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reaction.
The largest final round comeback in 4 championship history. We're down to the final 4.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner. CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
And we're back. KP, I'll just bounce this right back to you here on Rickie Fowler, who will make his 5th Ryder Cup appearance, though his first since 2018. His record is not exactly sparkling, 3-7-5, but he was a model of consistency in 2023. A bunch of top 20 finishes, back in the winner's circle at the Rocket Mortgage. Rickie Fowler returns to the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, listen, I like Rickie a lot. I have grown to like him even more over the last few years. I think his endurance, his grind has been admirable. I actually think a little bit, if you want to point to like the good old boys club, like this just being that, I think Fowler's an easier place to point than JT, right? Because there's a specific reason that JT is on the team. And Fowler, I don't know, like he's not been great at Ryder Cups. He's not the sort of catalyzer that JT is. He's playing okay. Like, is he like, what's the difference between Rickie Fowler and Russell Henley, Patrick?
Ryder Cup experience, really. That's it. And he's boys with Spieth. I don't know. I mean,
how about Finau? I think Finau's the comp there.
Yeah,
Sure.
I don't know if it's Russ because I mean I have a soft spot for Russ, but
Well, that's why I would throw it to you.
no, I think it's totally interchangeable. You could, Bradley, Finau, guys with Ryder Cup experience, foreign Ryder Cup experience, have won this year.
But isn't it impossible to get experience if you're never picked for a team? Right? Isn't that like there's an entry level job that asks for two years?
Well,
of
you
experience?
can you can play your way on.
Well, I said they're interchangeable with the guys with the experience, not the non-experienced guys. I don't know. I think the comfort level, I think, really, with Rickie, you certainly have it with Finau. I'm not sure if you quite have it there with Bradley. He even said it to himself, to Todd Lewis, that he's always felt like he's been outside of the club. He's tried to be closer with some of these guys, but it just hasn't clicked. And so, yeah, I think it's a fair conversation to have. And I really couldn't differentiate between Finau or Fowler, except that Fowler was better this summer.
Does Fowler fire you up, Rick?
Me? No. I think that it's a logical selection. I think that he played well enough to get on the team. I agree that it's pretty interchangeable with some of the other guys that you want. So I'm not I don't think it's a bad pick. I think it's just a very fair selection. I don't think he is going to win or lose the United States, the Ryder Cup.
But didn't Cam Young play well enough to get on the team? I mean, if that's
I like Cam Young because I think in these formats I'm willing to take on the risk for like elite skill set, high upside, a match that you might only hit half the shots and play 16 holes. Like I prefer that. So I think I would love Cam Young on this team, but I get where they're going here with Fowler.
It's interesting, Rick. You said he's not going to win or lose the Ryder Cup team. I feel like every time I watch Rickie in a Ryder Cup, it's the battle to have, right? Like, can I get a half a point out of this? It's always a great half, a great shot for the half.
Yeah.
It's all the time. And sometimes he loses and occasionally he's won, but it's a very middling record. And he's kind of a middling player, and he's used the term that's used by Zach.
Well,
Johnson.
he's like a middling good player. He's not like a.
Yeah, I'm not saying middle of the road PGA Tour player. I'm saying he's a good driver of the golf ball. He's a good iron player. He has a good to very good short game, and he's a good to very good putter. Right, but it's like he's very even. He's very spread out, kind of like glue. So I guess he's the glue that holds the team together. I don't know who you pair him with. Could be anybody. But it's like down the middle. Rickie's like Switzerland. It's
you and Rickie.
Did you think we were going to get a second Switzerland reference in this show?
I guess where I land on Rickie, Rick, is I don't know. I mean, maybe I just can't get Rory just baptizing him at Glen Eagles out of my head, but I don't know that he's like a 4-match guy. Listen, I wrote about this, I think at the US Open. I'm super happy for Rickie. Like he's incredibly likable, just the best. And him playing his way back into even a spot where he could be considered for this team is awesome. He's not a guy that I look at as like, okay, he's one of the guys this week that has to go out and do it. I think he's obviously playable. He's playing good golf, but I think I would be pretty, his usage rate would not be super high if I was a captain.
He's looking at like an 0-3 record.
I would have preferred Cam Young probably in that spot. The final spot is Sam Burns's, and Sam Burns will be making his Ryder Cup debut, a rookie in the Ryder Cup. And Patrick, we can point to his victory at the match play earlier this year. And Zach Johnson had a quote: "To say he meshes well with other members on the team would be a massive understatement."
I think it feels like with this pick, I like Burns on the team, but it felt like almost every auto qualifier got one pick, and
they all. Oh, that would be a cool way. A +1.
Yeah, it's kind of what it felt like, honestly, with this one. You know, all the discussions of Cam Young leading up to it, and then Scheffler, the hanging Chad vote with Sam Burns gets him through. And I know they weren't great at Quail Hollow. I don't think they won a point together. They're 0-3 together, I believe.
It was not Sam Burns' fault.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty had a shank in there too. So I think the comfort level, like you said, and I think what we were talking about with Rickie, I don't really see him getting trotted out in foursomes a ton. He might do one of those sessions, and then depending how that goes, he could play his way into the second one. But to me, he's a 4-ball player through and through. He can make a ton of birdies. He can make a ton of bogeys. That's going to be all right next to someone like Scotty Scheffler, who's only going to make pars and birdies for the most part. And that team in 4-ball, I would be shocked if they don't go 2-0.
That's a really good point about Scheffler. Plus, Scotty can see a couple go in maybe at some point.
That would be nice.
Can you set it up to highlight their strengths? I mean, can you get this with the layout of the golf course to where Sam Burns' weakness this year has been his iron play, strength is his putting, and he's a good driver. Can he drive it for Scotty and have Scotty knock it on the green and have Sam Burns putt? I mean, that seems like an ideal situation.
Yeah,
but are you going to get too much of the opposite side?
You can do that for 9 holes. The other 9, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, but you're going to be hard to beat if you have 9 wins.
Yeah, just win those 9 holes.
Right. That's all you have to do.
Easy sport.
Win the 9 holes that Sam Burns tees off. No pressure.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Burns a lot I think he's sort of underrated as a competitor. Like, I think back to him at where was it? Valspar, even match play this year, President's Cup last year. Like, I think he kind of wants the ball. Like, he's one of those guys. But you could say the same about Keegan. You could say the same about Finau. How good? I think Keegan and Scotty would be great. I think Scotty and Finau would be really good. Like, I don't. This one felt the most up in the air, I guess.
Sam Burns. So just to highlight some of the things that might help for these 3 days, and I think it's 31 days away. So he carried Scotty Scheffler on his shoulders around the President's Cup.
Literally,
he won the match play. And he has had to deal with Billy Horschel at the Zurich, and they've played well there in those formats, right? I mean, he does have like a lot of decent format history. And I like Sammer. And Greg, I think you said this was your favorite thing that they did today.
Yes. Because I think he kind of meshes a few things. There's always a contingent in the, this time of year where we should have taken someone who can putt, which is funny that it's kind of ironic that this year it's Keegan Bradley and Lucas Glover that we're, clamoring for. Normally it's like Kevin Na and Kevin Kisner, right? We're looking for somebody who we need someone who can actually putt. I think Sam Burns checks that box, but he's also not just a putting specialist, and he has putted in big moments and putted well. So I think he checks the box with the distance, which the captains always seem to like. The fans always seem to like the guys who can make putts, and Sam Burns does both of those. So it's a unique skill set that I think he brings to the table. And I love what he did at the Tour Championship. I think this spot was up for grabs in the playoffs. And with his tied 15th at the BMW, and a one phenomenal round of 62, and tied, working his way to tied 9th at the Tour Championship. I think it impressed Zach Johnson enough to earn this spot.
That's your captain selections. The guys on the outside looking in, we've been referencing them. The likely guys who just missed out: Keegan Bradley, Lucas Glover. I guess Tony Finau likely warranted a phone call. Maybe
Cam.
Russell Henley. Oh, Cam Young, obviously. Yeah, that's kind of a big one. Patrick,
Denny
McCarthy, you were all over the
course.
Cam Young stuff because who was it? Davis Love the third that a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago.
Fred
Freddie
Couples.
Freddie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's on the team. And it's like, well, he's not on the team. Was that the biggest surprise or the biggest snub when all this came out?
I would say it was the biggest surprise. And, credit to Shane Ryan of Golf Digest. The first question that Zach Johnson fielded was about Freddie Couples' comments about Cam Young. So hat tip to him. I think the biggest snub, look, when you're trying to play your way into the boys club, as people are calling it, and Keegan Bradley said he feels like he has to auto qualify for future Ryder Cups that he might never warrant a captain's pick. Two guys did it this year, Wyndham Clark and Brian Harman. They went out there and they earned their auto qualifier spot. So I'm kind of sick and tired of the people whining about it, because 2 out of the 6 guys, you know what, they weren't a member of the boys club. And maybe with their performance this year, they get membership full time. Who knows? Part time. I'm not entirely sure how that works. I'm also not a member of the boys club, but I would say the biggest snub, in my opinion, if we want to label it, I agree with Kyle, where I think Bryson could have taken Burns' spot. With, his partnership with Scotty in Wisconsin was fantastic. They're great together. I thought they brought out the best in each other. And he's a guy who is a great driver of the golf ball. He just shot 58. He's a great putter as well. I think that's the one guy that you could maybe classify as a snub.
Elite skill set, high ceiling. I would have been okay with that. I think I'm settling KP on, and I know we're past the deadline, so I don't get to say this anymore. But
we can say whatever we want.
I think I would be fine with Burns and Cam Young instead of JT and Fowler. And I also think if you wanted to get Bryson in there, I wouldn't be upset. I think I would have liked Keegan on the team. I think he earned it. I think he would have been really good. But when you start talking about elite, I mean, there really is only so many spots to be.
Well, hold on. You said Burns is on the team, so you were.
I didn't think he was going to be on the team originally. I thought that was going to be the Cam Young spot. So I was kind of surprised by that. So I'm okay with Burns taking Cam Young's spot if Cam Young takes Rickie Fowler's spot, is what I was
okay.
saying.
So you want Cam and who was the other one?
Burns. And I'm happy with that. But Keegan would have been very close in my conversation.
So Cam and Keegan instead of JT and Rickie?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That works. Sam Burns is on the team. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
All right. Yeah. No, that works. There's so many iterations.
Keegan is the guy that I feel for the most. I mean, he put himself out there like repeatedly, and he was open about it. And I have a lot of respect for people that do that, because, you look at I don't know, man, like Cam Young is obviously a freak, like he could be a Scheffler in 2021 situation where he's playing great, and then just wins 4 times the next year. We thought that could be this year, didn't happen. It could be next year. I don't know what's going to happen with Cam Young. I will say he did nothing for me at the President's Cup last year. He just, I don't know what his record was. It wasn't very good. And he didn't really seem to enjoy the environment. Now he also looks like he never enjoys any environment. So I think that's possibly part of it as well. But Keegan was just, man, I saw his quotes on Golf Channel I think it was Todd Lewis. I feel for I don't know. Kevin Van Valkenburg had a tweet thread where he's like, man, Keegan cared a lot about the Ryder Cup in an era where that wasn't really a sexy thing to do. It's kind of become in vogue now, and it maybe wasn't 10, 15 years ago. And he's put himself out there over and over and over again, and to get shut out there, I think is it's a huge bummer, and I feel bad for him.
Cam Young. I almost got through the whole show. At least I didn't call Jordan Smith as I was announcing him as my Ryder Cup captain selection.
There is a Jordan Smith though, right?
Jordan L. Smith. Yeah. He's a
English.
very good European player. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he's giving away one of McDonald's picks.
There you go. Little insider trading. Cam Young was 1-2-1 at the President's Cup. So Greg, when you look at the guys on the outside looking in, who was the biggest whiff?
This is a tough one. I think it's hard to call Bryson or Dustin or any of the live players a snub because they willingly decided to, excuse themselves from events that gather points. And they gave themselves knowingly only 4 events to do that. So it's really hard for me to call that a snub. So it's not any of those guys. Keegan, I definitely feel the worst for, but I think the biggest snub is Lucas Glover because he's the one guy that went out in the most recent form and cashed in back-to-back wins. And one of them was in the playoffs. And that's a really challenging thing to do. Now, he had a really long way to go, and he still had an opportunity. He got himself in the conversation by winning twice. And he only had 2 events to go, and he kind of had to string together a 6 week in a row run that nobody can handle. And that's what he had to do. So I feel like he's probably the biggest snub to me. And I probably would have replaced him with JT. I think he got every other pick right. And he may have gotten the JT pick right. It's not what I would have done. But yeah, I'd say Glover.
If you are interested in the betting markets, before Zach Johnson released his selections, Europe was plus 150. That has shortened now plus 135. So markets looked at what ZJ did this morning and money came in on the Europeans. Is that of interest to anybody?
Let it keep going that way. Let it keep going that way. We're going to time it perfectly for this American side. I love all this love for the Europeans. Love it. Give me, make the US side the dogs.
Okay. Well, would you like to take out in advance of all of your 2024 best bet dollars and put it on the Americans?
Can we get it boosted to even money?
We'll see. Maybe the book of Josh will boost it for you.
We've already got an overruled in the chat, but Patrick, which team has more dogs?
Oh, technically, I believe the dog count is 1 a pop. Harman and Straka.
I am already over calling Brian Harman a bulldog. I'm way over it.
Zach Johnson.
Way over it.
Yeah, Zach Johnson had some tough. When he said, I won an Open championship. I was like,
yeah, just by the way,
what? What are we? Is this what event is this?
It is such a trip.
I meant actual dogs, Patrick.
I know.
What's your eye test on the dogs?
We've got. Well,
I'm just gonna keep saying it until Rick ejects from the podcast.
No, dogs is fine, but calling just Brian Harman specifically a bulldog with the both,
it's so not good.
It was funny the first time someone realized that was possible. Now it is that was 5 years ago.
Oh, at least
he is a slot receiver in the NFL to every announcer ever.
Is Justin Thomas a dog?
Yes.
Sure
yes.
Thing. Brian
Certified.
Harman. Sure. Jordan
Yes.
Spieth? Nah, I don't think so.
He's like a yappy dog.
I don't know if he's a dog.
Ricky Fowler? No. Burns?
No.
Burns might be a dog.
All right, we'll see. Keegan. Oh, Keegan's on the team. Collin. Keegan is.
One of those finely groomed dogs.
He's too pretty. He and Spieth they're too pretty.
I think he's like a poodle.
Brooks Koepka.
Dog.
Yeah.
He's like a Doberman. Yeah.
Junkyard dog.
Or boxer. Pitbull.
Xander, no. Cantlay, no. I'll save those for you. Wyndham Clark.
I think he's got a little dog in him.
Dog tendencies.
Yeah, that's fair.
3.5. Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, I think he's a dog.
Max Homa.
Yeah, trending toward being a dog.
Give him the
So
nod.
we'll give him 5. Rory McIlroy.
Yes.
Dog. Yeah.
John Rahm.
Oh, but 2 dogs.
Big time.
Junkyard
Double
dog.
Double dog. Robert McIntyre.
Dude, he's a dog. I don't know if he's going to be on the team.
Victor Hovland.
Dog.
Yeah, I think so.
Terrell Hatton.
Talk about one that just barks a ton. All bark, potentially no bite though. Honestly.
Yeah, I don't like. I think he kind of is, but I don't know if he's good enough to be one.
Is he like a Jack Russell?
Tommy Fleetwood.
Not a dog.
He's
Matt
like
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. No,
Not a dog.
I can't give it to him.
Sepp
At the
Straka.
Ryder Cup.
Straka might be a dog.
I think Straka is a dog.
He's a bulldog. He has to be.
Shane Lowry.
Yeah, I'm
He
in on
melted
Lowry.
at Honda on a little rain. I hope it doesn't rain in Rome, or else Shane's
The
in big
Open in the
trouble.
worst weather Justin Thomas.
He had that big celebration at Whistling Straits. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he might not be a dog. I don't know. I need some time on him.
Rosie.
No, not a dog.
No, he's like a poodle too.
Adrian Moronk.
No.
I think it's 5-4. U.S.
We have more dogs.
Let's go dog. Let's go dog.
Bet the house, Patrick.
Based on my unofficial running count as we just went through
It'll
that.
get
5-4.
A book will boost it eventually.
Gents, we obviously have another 30 days to talk about this, but anything that we need to press on right this second?
What's coming? Oh gosh.
This was the Zoom inside the Zoom. This was Zoomception. Each one of these guys on a Zoom, the entire thing on a Zoom.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they don't meme us the way these guys got memed.
Well, it's just it's all context. You always see them in the context of like beautiful golf courses all over the world, and then all of a sudden you jam them into like a digital box, and it's just
Okay.
the outcome is incredible.
Who had the best box?
I think Fowler's gallery wall
Zach
was
Johnson.
tasteful.
In the full view, Rickie, you could see the Ryder Cup trophy.
Yeah, that was cool.
JT's in a very beautiful home.
I thought he was in Colorado. I thought he was like in Montana training or something.
I like Brooks's. Brooks is
better
in that modern mansion that he has in Jupiter, right? I'm assuming that's like, I like that with the palms behind. So
Yeah.
my vote's Brooks.
I like Brooks's too. Spieth's is the funniest.
Brooks just could have like cut his hair or shaved or something.
Spieth. So I don't know if you saw. So they must have just done that wall on the left, because on the right was the bag of the extra pieces.
Okay.
So
Well, it's the same room that he's been in every time he's on a Zoom. I think it's the same hoodie that he wears too. He just has like his Zoom,
The Zoom room.
kit.
the Zoom room.
The Zoom room. Yeah, exactly.
All right, who had the worst one?
Probably Burns. Like, just throw the shades up, man.
The Burns is bad from like a glare, something right behind his head.
The bag out of his head.
Yes, but Collin is crooked. It's coming from below him. This is shameful. That's shameful. That would never fly on HQ.
That was he's taking that from the coffee table in the living room, right there. But I think
watching TV.
Yeah, one of the best parts was they were just Pepper and JT. Everyone else is just staring off into space, like trying to look like they're paying attention, like it's class.
Last JT thing, and then we can go. I think that one thing we didn't talk about is Europe. You and I were texting about this, Rick. Europe does not want him at the Ryder Cup. Like they would rather have Russell Henley, Keegan, anyone. They don't, that they see that as problematic, and I think that is really interesting and worthy of consideration whenever we talk about all this.
It's they see the ceiling too, and it goes both ways, right? If you stomp Justin Thomas 5-4 early, it's better than stomping Rickie Fowler 5-4.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, it cuts both ways.
Both ways. JT will be the linchpin and will be under the magnifying glass the entire week.
It makes it super interesting, right? It makes an already crazy, emotional, interesting week that much more so. I couldn't even think straight today. I was so excited. I can't wait for it.
It's going to be sick. It's going to be awesome.
You're going, Rick.
Let's go. Rome bound. They let me in. They let me have a credential. I'm in.
Incredible.
Fallen.
Let me know if you guys need any recommendations.
That city's not ready. You have Rome recommendations?
Yeah.
Sick.
Ever heard of like this little place called the Coliseum?
You sound like that's like something ZJ said in his Zoom today.
I do have restaurants though, if you need them.
Okay.
And gelato, coffee shops, all that. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll hit you up on that.
Are you like? Did you grow up there, like Kobe or something?
No, I spent a week there. My buddy was working for the consulate, so he kind of showed me around.
Okay.
All right, we'll take you up on that.
More political stuff going on.
Patrick's back channeling to the PIF. And how do you think we fund this show, right? I mean, come on. We got to pull it off somehow. Patrick's here for that. You can follow Patrick on Twitter at Amateur Status. Big thanks to producer Josh. He does all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme is available at The Real GFD, and Kyle Porter is found at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.